Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 83rd episode of the Homegames podcast. I'm Yazeed, and this is Joseph.
Hello, I'm Joseph, and today is June 6, 2021. Today we're going to be talking about tagging, and...
That's right.
Yeah. What were the other things I said to you just before we started recording?
The website stuff?
The website is going to be related to that, and then there's the locker stuff that we were talking about for Twitter API stuff, the last episode. And then my kind of 2319 project, the thing I was talking about.
Oh, the 2319, yes.
Yeah, the Monsters Inc.
Yes.
Blow up the thing over there project. Did you have any topics?
Yeah. So Joseph mentioned my terrain PR. I'll start. I'll just go ahead and start.
Go for it.
Joseph mentioned my terrain builder PR, and I'm going to put out my modal PR today. I was going to do that right before, but then I actually lost track of time, so... I'll put out my modal PR today.
Just don't let it happen again.
Thank you. Yeah, and then I also realized that I never updated my PR with what we had talked about the clean on the train. So I implemented that as part of that as well. I mean, for people who don't know, basically the algorithm to figure out whether the terrain is like passing my process, I have to like clean it in between steps. And so I was cleaning the whole board basically, when really all I need to do is just clean the path that I've been on. So I just changed it to that. So it just reduces the runtime of the algorithm, and really like the algorithm in general is like on a logarithmic curve anyway. Not logarithmic. I think it is logarithmic because it has like an upper bound as like how hard it can go. Because once you pass like your first run through is the longest run through, and then every run through afterwards becomes progressively faster. Anyway, long story short, that's all going to go out. The other thing too is I thought about how I wanted my Twitter game to go, just like the flow of the game, because I wasn't sure about how the train, if Joseph was going to have more commentary on my train PR. So basically the way I want the game to work is the person starts the game, and then they get a modal that's like, please enter your Twitter credentials if they aren't saved anywhere. And I'm sure we'll talk about more about that with Locker later. So that's the first step. Step 2 is please put in your Twitter handle so that we can pull tweets for that handle. And then they're going to have another thing that says, like, do you want to add in like random people? Like, do you want to add in like additional people that like aren't actually playing? So like you can add like Elon Musk or like ESPN or whatever. Like, I don't know, Disney. Tony the Tiger.
So it's not really random. It's like a curated list.
No. You can like fill it out with whatever you want in there. So it's random to me because I won't know.
Oh, you just need like input.
Yeah. You can just add in whatever you want there. I
thought you meant like build a feature that will randomly pull somebody's tweets.
Oh, that sounds stupidly funny. It'd be stupidly funny, but also we get in so much trouble because people post porn on Twitter.
That's not our fault. It's on Twitter.
Yeah, but
that's Twitter terms of service. You can put porn.
Yeah, you can, but are we gonna lie?
Yeah, I don't believe like
I don't know. I didn't want to do it that way. So at any rate, but the other thing too is I'm not going to display images. So what you would get is just like the text of like person X just boning person Y or whatever, or like person X going at it solo or whatever is like the little bit of text. And how would you know from there like what's going on? But anyway, so this is all about like the first person. So they put in their Twitter credentials if they haven't put it in a way that we can pull. The second thing is their Twitter handle. The third thing is any additional handles that they want to do that aren't players. And then they're going to have a go button after that. Just like they hit the go button and the game actually starts. As other people join, they're just going to get prompted with, what's your Twitter handle? And if they want to add in additional people, I'm going to say they can, just to make the game a little bit more spicy. From there, once everyone has been like, here, your Twitter handle is in, the person is at go, and then the game actually starts. And so what's going to happen is that there's going to be like a timer, and the like tweet will show up in the middle, and then all of the players' names will be there as buttons, and you get to click who you think it is, and the timer runs out, and then whatever the last thing you've picked is, that's what your guess was, and you get points allotted to that, and it tells you like, oh, this was actually tweeted by this person. And if it was tweeted by one of the random people, there'll be an option for none of the above, and that'll be like, oh, one of the like additional people, just to like add a little bit more flavor to the game. I think would be. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about like what other people would play it with, because I don't tweet, so I wouldn't play this game.
Right.
Because I don't tweet regularly, and my Twitter, the API key that I have is a 1 week thing, and I don't tweet at all in a given week. I think I tweet like once a month, maybe. And most of the time I'm just retweeting what Joseph tweeted or liking what Joseph tweeted. So, yeah, that's my guess on like if I was a person who tweeted, that's how I'd want to play a game. But maybe we should bring in the expert. Joseph, you tweet regularly.
I tweet for myself. And sometimes people respond, and I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever.
Like the time you called me out on Twitter for my work.
Wait, what did I do?
You were like, oh yeah, I deleted Facebook, but I actually use React and GraphQL.
That was not you by name.
Like, okay, all right, calling me out, dude.
No, that was not direct towards you. You just happened to be the target. No, but I was just thinking, I don't know what the game should look like, and I kind of don't. We can play test it and iterate, whatever. Like, I don't really have any strong opinions about the kind of design phase or whatever that you're in, but I was just thinking the way that you're describing the game sounds like it might actually be harder for you to build than Square. And we could the locker and secrets and API keys and stuff aside, I think just building the game that you're talking about will be difficult because you kind of have screens and like a more complex UI where there's like an expectation that this is the beginning stage, this is the we're playing stage, and then some interaction that'll change it between states, like more complicated than in Square where it's like one screen, you clear the board, you fill it up, you clear the board, you fill it up. There's no persistent UI state. It's just like a thing that keeps getting cleared out. So in some ways, this button or this buttons and text and whatever might be harder than Frogger.
Yeah, it should be. The other thing too is that I needed to build something similar to it for color tag, right? Because the way color tag works is it gives a modal to the first player in the game, like the person who starts it, and it's just like when everybody has joined, you hit the button and then it builds the terrain based on that. Basically, that's just to prevent it that if like 20 people are joining, you can't place you can't place like 10 blocks of terrain because that takes up too much of the board. So it basically like there's some math that says like a player takes up this much space and the terrain can take up X amount of space besides that. And that combined amount needs to be like a certain threshold. So there's enough room for you to move without instantly like running into people. So I already had to build something like that for color tag. So, I mean, some of that's there. The modal work should really fix up the rest of this because the modals is really like what's driving everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should be a little bit more complicated. I mean, even just from like how it renders is a little bit different, right? Like for Square and for color tag, it's all internal to Homegames. Whereas this needs to go fetch a tweet at random from it needs to go fetch a tweet from one of the random users in your user list, then figure out how to display it, decide like, is this like an image only Twitter post or is there text associated with it, and like do something from there.
Then there's,
and keep track of all that. So good.
Yeah. There's the thing before where, there's also videos and then there's the voice tweets things. And my friend sent me a message on Twitter about a month ago, and it was a share of a tweet that had a game embedded in it. Like some dude figured out how to make it so he could embed a video or something, but it actually like turns into a game in line in your Twitter feed.
What?
I forget specifically how he did it or what was going on there. But the real test is if we could put that dude's video in Homegames and get his game loading in Homegames. We won't, but I guess my point is that we're going to have to define where we stop at some point because we can't just build Twitter.
I think for me on this pass, I'm going to just stop at text, and I'm going to, if it's a video, I'm just going to choose a different tweet.
Yeah, smart. Well, even if it's video, like kind of like what we talked about before where it's all about iterating, and if you have I have this thing that talks to Twitter, and I have this thing where the UI can move from one tweet to the next. People can define their names and whatever. You have a lot of it there, and then it's like, I can't do photos. Oh, fuck all this. It's like, no, you just put that out, and then eventually add photos one day, someday, not right now.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like that. I think for me, it's just to me, this game is funnier if it's just text. because video or images generally, like, you're either in it or it's something like you regularly interact with or something, some combination of those two things. So I think it's just be too easy at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll look to eventually add those in. We just need to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing about making, like, adding video streaming synced up to every device. Like, that's fucking crazy. I don't want to do that anytime soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. I was gonna say something and then I forgot it just now. So go ahead and say something.
Twitter, yeah, it should be. I'm hoping what this game is like fun for people who tweet regularly.
Yeah.
But I have no way of testing that, so I'm just gonna force people who tweet regularly to try this game out.
Well, I don't even think it needs to be a thing that where people. I mean, obviously, if you are active on Twitter, then that adds something for other people to kind of like, you know, it makes your tweets interesting because you have tweets. Mm-hmm. But the core idea of the game of just who said that kind of always works for whoever, even if someone isn't on Twitter. So I think it'll be cool.
I realize now what would be also a funny way to do this for people who don't tweet regularly is to just take it and have take it and strip out the Twitter side of it and just have people throw like sentences into this, and then we break it up and then we just hand out a sentence like who said that sentence, basically like straight up like what is it, quiplash kind of.
Yeah. You can also combine it with the idea from before and pull a random person's tweet and then say, okay, from the group, who would have tweeted this? Who's most likely to have said this? And then that obviously gets it like I had this idea a couple years ago where I would build a robot to basically go through all the porn subreddits. Because if you go to any of them, you see the comments and they're fucking disgusting.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah, where like the people don't realize people can read that shit. You're just like... You know what I mean? So I thought it'd be fun to make a bot that would take all of those comments and then just show you a random one every now and then. Mm-hmm. Where it's just like, I want to dive into that asshole or whatever. It's like, all right, that's my homepage.
It'll make you guess which subreddit it's from.
That would be fun. Which subreddit was this from? It's like wholesome memes, asshole gone wild. You know, it's kind of like that.
That'd be pretty funny, actually.
But yeah, there's potential there, I guess. And since we're talking about the Twitter stuff, we could talk about the locker.
Yeah.
thing. I didn't have a whole lot of thoughts on it because I haven't been working on it yet. But I guess for context, what we're talking about is if someone's playing a game on Homegames, in a general sense, doesn't have to be Twitter necessarily, but they need... Okay, well, actually, take a step back even further than that. The reason that people would have their own integration with like a Twitter API key or something like that when playing Homegames, and that it's not provided by us out of the box, is because these things cost money and we don't have money to spend on a business that like we have no money for that. You know what I mean? We just can't.
I mean, Twitter has free version. It's about a week, which is what I have right now.
Yeah.
But I don't, because it's like tied to me as like a Twitter person. Like my Twitter developer account is tied to that. I would like to not get banned from the Twitter API.
Well, that too, but then it would be like a terms of service thing on our side or whatever.
Yeah.
But the in a general sense, outside of any specific service, we can't provide resources always that would be required to make a game run, because sometimes those things cost money. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to have an API key that could access all tweets from everybody always, that would cost money from Twitter. And then, it puts like some sort of operational responsibility on us.
I think it's like $100 a year.
Yeah, and then also just, we then have to make sure that we abide by the Twitter API rules, and then we have our own terms of service that match that one, and we're not there. So part of the whole thing with Homegames is, you run it on your own computer because we don't want to pay for the server to run it. And so kind of in that way of thinking...
Partly, but also I think it's nice to be able to just run it on your own server.
Well, I think in the grand scheme of things, I think that people running stuff on their own computer makes them more comfortable with what it is, and it makes them more comfortable with being able to fuck with it. And when you're able to fuck with it, you can contribute to it and like go from there. So yeah, I agree. It's a cool thing to have it running on their thing. But another reality is that we need to access resources that you provide, and you need to give it to us in a way that is secure and stable. If you have an API key and it needs to move through our system, you want to trust the system still. So anyway, I guess I was just thinking what we're talking about is a server or a service on our side where someone can say, hey, here's a secret. I'm Yazeed. My API key is ABC123. That's essentially a password. Store it for me. That sounds like the opposite of what I want to do forever and always. Because if I'm storing your data in a, whatever, even if it's encrypted and even if it's whatever, I don't want to. I don't want to store any of your shit, because even if someone hacked S3 and they got all this encrypted data, they couldn't get anything from it. But if someone just logged into AWS as me, they have all the power. They can read all your shit. I can read all your shit. Obviously, I wouldn't, but that's not a selling. Like, I can't just tell people to trust me. You know what I mean? Hey, I can see all your shit that you send here, but like, it's all good, bro.
Yeah.
I'm a guy. There's not even like, I totally get that people wouldn't trust that. So I'm thinking that's not, I guess it's just something that I'm not super comfortable with. And so I was just trying to think of ways to get around it. And then I started kind of thinking, taking a step back, do we need to store this stuff on our side, or can we build systems that let you access them without us? Like, I don't know how this would work on a technical level, but if you had some sort of way on a user's machine to keep their secrets in something in memory, run like a Redis cache or a web server, or just something where this data is not on disk. Someone read your whole file system, they wouldn't find it, but it's maintained in memory by this service, and we don't have access to the data. It's not even on our stuff. It's on your computer, but it's there running, and it's available decrypted in memory, so things can access it because it's all on the same computer. All of this shit's talking encrypted to your computer, which has all of this on in its memory, whatever, accessible to it or by it. So again, I don't know what that looks like. I'm just kind of spitballing ideas, but I guess I'm just saying, even if we had the most secure system in the world, my AWS account has access to view these resources. If it's in Secrets Manager, if it's in S3, if it's in Dynamo, it can be encrypted, but I, as a person, can still access it. I don't even want that at all, because it just adds more risk and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm thinking. I don't really know where I'm going with it. I would love to build a system where you can just keep all your shit running on your computer in the same way that Homegames is just running on your computer, and that's all you on your side. We can provide services to make that work better, but we're not saving that shit unless we have to. But I really don't want to.
The reason, I mean, I'm okay with that. I brought it up for people who don't know. Basically, what I was saying was that it is ultimately Homegames just runs on JavaScript or Node specifically. This is not really a way to limit that, because there's almost always a workaround for stuff like that, especially with JavaScript, because it's such a flexible language. So my main concern was that if we stored it in like a config file or like a .env file or something like that, like your Twitter keys, a game could just go in, grab it, and then send it off. And there's not really a way for us to be like, no, bad. Like, you can't do that. That's illegal. So my idea originally was to, like, Homegames would store it in something that we have, so that when a request is made against it, we could say like, hey, this game is asking for this. Are you cool with it using that resource? But I'm okay with us not storing it even. I think for this initial pass, I'm cool with people having to type it out every time. I don't have a problem with that, especially as like an initial pass. Like, I'm just building a game. We can worry about that piece later. Because this isn't right. Like, especially like right now, in order to use this Twitter game anyway, you have to get a developer key. It's like make your own developer key. So if you're like willing to do that, I assume you're willing to hold on to it in a way that makes you feel safe, right? So, I mean, I'm okay with it for right now, and we can figure the rest of it out later. I'm still iffy on us holding on to the keys locally. And like you said, technically, I don't know if that would work, but I've never looked into something like that anyway, so I don't know.
Yeah, I that's what I'm saying. I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. I just know, like, okay, we could build a system where someone says, here's my stuff, here's my API key, my whatever, all these things I want you to keep secret. I will encrypt these with a password only I know.
Mm-hmm.
We store it encrypted.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I were, like, it's like double encrypted because you're encrypting data with a password and then you're encrypting that separately with another key in AWS. It's like crazy, whatever. But at that point, when I personally go into S3 and I try to download your shit, say worst case scenario, someone got my password and the 2FA stuff and they got in, and they go into S3, they download everything and like, haha, I just fucked the whole Homegames customer base. They look into it and it's still all encrypted because every individual encrypted it with their own password and I don't know it.
Yeah.
That's safer. It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
The downside is every time they decrypt it, they need a fucking password. So if you're maybe this is the workaround. Maybe this is the middle thing where no one's really happy, but everything's kind of decent. And it's just like, hey, kind of like an admin thing on Windows or like whatever. Like, hey, a thing is trying to access this key. Put in your password to let
mm-hmm.
it. Which secure, whatever, it's good to put in but like it's a bad user experience. But I think people would probably you saying that people need to generate their own API key reminded me that this whole shit's a bad user experience. The good one, the good user experience is a hosted version that we provide,
mm-hmm.
and the tinkerer's version is the stuff that we're talking about. And that audience is very small. So I think I'm realizing that maybe that password prompt every time is not so bad, but I'll give it more thought. I very much want to avoid being able to access people's stuff that they put into it.
Yeah. I mean, especially because some of these keys are like paid for, I assume. Like basically the reason you would pay for this is that you aren't limited to 1 week of tweets. You can go back like a month or a year or forever, basically, with like the paid Twitter subscriptions, and you can set yours to like write and read or whatever, or delete tweets. Like you can do crazy stuff with the Twitter API keys. Right now mine's just set to read permissions only, so you can only read with mine, which I think is what most people would set it as, and when we have a hosted version would probably be doing that as well.
But in the future, if someone else wanted to build a home game where, for example, fucking, I don't know, you're playing with a person and every time you hit the button, it tweets a word, random word. That's a horrible game, but it would use the same system here. It would call the API. It would say to Homegames, hey, I need the Twitter API key. Homegames would tell the user, like, hey, they're trying to do this thing.
Yeah.
User would say yes or no, and then the game would be able to or not able to do that thing based off of.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I like prompting them, being like, please enter your password here, because it kind of lets them know, like, if they weren't expecting a game to need Twitter permissions, it might be like a red flag that they have to type out their whole ass password and like, hold on, why do they need this?
Yeah, adding friction to that makes people consider what they're doing. Because my main concern is that because this is anyone can make a game and it can, right, and then anyone can play it, right? I would just be concerned that somebody just wrote one that just like reads your file system, finds all your API keys and ships them. Because I could imagine a world where somebody who's absolutely bonkers writes like a tie-in to PayPal or whatever, like a casino thing where you like actually just spend money, and then suddenly as you're like, that was crazy, that's like your PayPal information. I didn't even hear that like audibly. I heard it through your mic into my headset. Freezer just made ice for people who are aware, and it sounded louder than it ever has in real life.
So anyway, I just wanted like the locker, less for the Twitter one and more for like the future possibilities of what people could use keys for.
Yeah, but building, I guess.
I can imagine somebody making a poker game and it links up everyone has to put in their PayPal information, and then it just costs you money to play. That'd be pretty funny.
But see, people can make bullshit, but it's very, very traceable to you. You have to have a GitHub account with public code. I guess not you. It's just traceable to whoever put it up. I have a hard time thinking that people are going to just be putting up viruses because it's reviewed by humans before it's searchable and findable. And if someone finds out you're doing shady shit, it's on your GitHub account. We have documented evidence that like this is your email address, this is your username, you put this up, this was code available and readable. We could point to the shit right here. It's open source and public. Virus. Right here. Virus.
Yeah, yeah.
What is that? Fucking fridge noises again. Trying to find a good spot to record and realizing that there's no good spot to record.
Yeah. The good spot to record is just like a brick house out in the wilderness with a good quiet setting or something. I don't know. I'm not an audio guy.
Me neither, which sucks because I do the audio.
What was I going to say? Yeah, yeah, I mean, you're right. There are like limitations of what people could do, but I would rather us be extra doubly careful about like holding on to people's like how we handle those things.
Oh yeah,
right? Yeah.
Well, that goes into the next thing of my 2319 project. So
yes,
we'll talk about tags later. But now that I'm kind of on the tail end of tagging and all this kind of searching, filter, discoverability service stuff I've been talking about for a while, pretty much done with that. So now I'm thinking about really fleshing out this approval process and the stuff we're kind of talking about now, which is someone puts up a game, a human has to review it before it can be discoverable. Like you can still publish bullshit and people can play bullshit, but you have to be very intentional about the way that you play it because you have to. Anyway, thinking about this approval process. So, like I mentioned last episode, I wanted to reference the Monsters Inc. 2319 thing, just because the idea of this service is take the code that someone gave us, which is essentially that sock in the movie, and then just put a little dome over it and just let it blow up.
Yeah, yeah.
And then after that, basically see what happens. And I wanted to name it properly. And so I spent an embarrassing amount of time this past week, trying to think of a clever, cute name for this approval service thing. And so this is not what I'm going to call it, but I'm calling it BLEC, BLEC, which is the stupidest fucking word. Like, just say it.
BLEC? Yeah, I kind of like it, though. What does it stand for?
BLEC. It's just stupid. But, okay, so the way I got this was I was on my whiteboard just writing 2319 and trying to, like, get inspired by me writing it. In my head, things that I do in the office are a lot fucking cooler than they are when I talk about them. It's like, yeah, bro, I was inspired as shit at the whiteboard. No, but if you take my handwriting, 2319, and you flip it upside down, it looks like BLEC, BLEC. And so I turned that into like, I was trying to make that a word or a name or like a thing. And then Synovia was like, why don't you just name it after the dude who brought the sock in? It's like Sanderson or something like that.
Yeah, okay, all right.
And I was like, damn, but it's 3 syllables. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
We use dog naming conventions here. It's 2 syllables max.
Max, yeah.
And except my dog was 3 syllables. So.
Sapphire?
Sapphire. Oh my God, she has a 2-syllable name. You know, I've always struggled with counting syllables. I hated when we would be in like every like poetry class you take in like public school. They're like, now we're gonna learn how to write a haiku. I was like, I don't know how to count syllables, and I'm not allowed to use my phone. So why do I do this? Because I'm terrible at it. I thought Sapphire was way more syllables than 2. I'll be real with you. Until right now, when I said that out loud, and your look on your face was this absolute moron.
Well, I had a similar thing a couple days ago. The word through was really fucking me up.
Through?
Because that's 1 syllable. But if you I know, right? But if you really go through the letters, that sounds like 3. Through?
Yeah.
Through.
Which version of through are we using?
Like going through a tunnel.
Oh, but not through. But
yeah,
like
through, that's 1 syllable. But
yeah.
Through?
Through is so many letters. And there's so many letters in that word. It's wild. All right.
Anyway, you're not alone. But no, I just wanted to mention for my 2319 thing, trying to think of a name. That's probably going to be the next part of my list. Like really trying to nail down what we can discover about code. Like if we can get, and I don't think we can, but if we can get something that just says, hey, this JavaScript over here, it accesses the file system and it makes network calls. If we can say that it doesn't with confidence, then that's great because that's pretty safe. But I don't think we can just do that.
You can. So the thing is with Node is that you can. They provide you with like modules, like the FS module, the file system module. And that's just to make your life easy. You can write JavaScript to go get it on your own. And I imagine if somebody was going to do it, they would do it that way as opposed to using FS, because FS is so easy to be like, does this like import FS or require FS? Like,
yeah, like we could do some sort of static thing like that. Say, oh, do they require this, whatever, any of these libraries? But those libraries, like you said, are just libraries running code.
You can go into Node and find the actual code that they run to do FS. I mean, it's a lot, but you could do it.
Yeah, and I think like I think I'd mentioned this before, but for example, I disallow the use of set timeout, the global set timeout and set interval functions available in Node. Typically, they're available in the window object or whatever in the browser, but they're just globals in Node. So I had to do some fancy shit basically to make set timeout and set interval undefined, like explicitly set to null. But you can call this dot set timeout, this dot set interval, and within a Homegames class, I guess, whatever, you get it. Where this is referring to kind of the Homegames guts that are special to your game, and Homegames guts have a special version of set timeout and set interval that you can call, but you can't call the standard one. And I'm sure there is a way to call the standard one because I don't know anything. But
I think you figure out what the code that it's actually executing is, and you just make a function that's next to it that you just call anyway. I don't know why you would do it, but you could. That's the thing about JavaScript, is that it's so malleable.
And I think one of the things that might be nice is that people likely won't build large complex games in Homegames. You won't have a dozen directories with a bunch of different code modules and utilities and helpers, and this stuff handles texture streaming and this stuff no, you're playing this on a web browser. You probably don't have a whole lot there. So on a person level, being able to see something and be like, okay, this is doing something weird or not doing something weird. I think we haven't had an example, so I have a hard time thinking about what it would look like, but in my head it's not too hard to know if something weird is happening. And I can try to add all these programmatic checks, but ultimately those checks will just be helpers to whatever the manual process is. That process always has to be manual. It goes into my whole thing of like, there are certain things. Fucking dog in the background, that's all right. Special guest this week, Pepper the dog.
Bro, it really freaked me out because I know that she isn't in the front yard, but it sounds like it is from the right one. Yeah. That one really freaked me out. I was like, dog, your dog's outside on the front side. Like, you need to handle that? No? Sorry.
Let her roam. What was I talking about?
2019.
Just like on a philosophical level, I don't think you can any thing generated by humans. I don't think you can programmatically regulate. You need to have humans looking at it. So, one of my early things was human beings will always have bias in the approval, and so the solution is to remove potential for bias by just saying, is it legal? Is it not? If it's legal, go for it. You're not stealing passwords, go for it. Like, these are the terms of service things, whatever that we have to define. But anyway, there needs to be people in the process, and so that's just kind of where that is.
Can I offer you a name for this service?
Please.
The Home Dome.
The Home Dome? Holy shit, because you put it under the home? That's amazing. Fuck yeah. I like that a lot. Home Dome. Hell yeah. Okay, that's perfect. This whole time, I'm such a fucking cornball, dude. This whole time I was like, Bleck. It's on my whiteboard. I'm like, episode 83 called Bleck. It'll be funny. It'll be great. But no, the Home Dome. There we go.
The Home Dome. I like that one. I was thinking about what rhymes with home and explains this process, and I was gonna go the home defense, but then I was like, that sounds like a gun. No, let's go with something else. And then I thought about fire extinguisher, and then I was like, no, the home dome.
The home dome. It's kind of like the bone zone. I feel like that's very much inspired by your.
The bone zone. What is the bone zone? What?
I feel like you as a man just say bone zone when you're talking to me.
I don't think I've ever said a bone zone.
Maybe not. In my head, you're that kind of dude where you're just like, someone's like, oh, I had a Tinder date. You're like, oh, bro, you go to the bone zone?
I'm going to start saying that now, but no, I didn't. I never said that prior to right now. I'm going to add that to my vocabulary. No, honestly, the thing I've been stuck on in my head has been papaya.
Oh, right. Remember that?
Yeah, but now what I do is I say papaya, and then I point at either my dog or my nephew, and I say, you know what I'm saying? And they don't know what I'm saying, but they know what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Some real weirdo shit, Yazeed.
Yeah, this is your 27 and lonely.
Not in the bone zone.
Not in the bone zone. Podcast experience, everybody.
Cool. Well, I think, what was my other thing? Tagging.
Yeah, tagging.
That's the last kind of big thing. So yeah, like I mentioned the last episode, I had this search service where you can search for words that match in a game's name or description. And then I wanted to add a tagging system that worked where, in a way that reminded me of Reddit upvotes, where you on Reddit can go to your upvoted page and you see this kind of everything that you've liked from everything forever ago, and you have this kind of list of interactions that you've had with content or whatever. And on the other side of that, you have you can discover something that someone has tagged. You can discover games that have been tagged with a certain word, standard tags. And then you can kind of view a list of tags, go to that tag, see a list of games that match it, see a game that has all the whatever tags. It's kind of simple, self-explanatory, I guess. So I built that. I realized I had this question before about kind of data storage and if I liked DynamoDB being the main read source, and kind of where I wanted to draw the line between reading from the actual source, which is Dynamo, and the kind of search replica, which is Elasticsearch. And so I think I'm drawing the line at, well, this is the way it is today. So I think I am drawing the line at anything that is accessed by people who are not the game developer. Like basically if I'm searching for a game, if I'm searching for tags, if I'm looking for something to play today, all that's coming from Elasticsearch. I don't need it to come from the up-to-date correct data source because DynamoDB costs us more money than Elasticsearch does. If I wanted to bump up the read capacity of Dynamo, it would be more expensive than just having my Elasticsearch cluster handle that traffic, at least at the moment. At the moment, actually that's not true. DynamoDB today costs me $5 a month for that one table. Elasticsearch costs me $100 a month. But that $100 will get us more requests kind of without increasing the cost than this 5 will. If I wanted it to handle a certain amount of traffic, the cost goes up crazy. So it's $5 today, but at scale it goes stupid. Not that we can handle any proper scale today anyway. But anyway, the point is that's the way I'm thinking about it. Do you need to have it to be up to date, super accurate all the time? Yes, if you're the developer. If you're going and you're saying, I'm creating a game, it has a description, and I'm creating a new version, you're making all that data. I can't rely on it hitting Dynamo and then getting replicated out and then coming back to you from this replica fast, because then there's the consistency problem, right? Like you can maybe have it on one thing available, but in the entire cluster, it's not quite there yet, or whatever.
Yeah, like the parallelism and distributed issue. Yeah,
computer shit. So
that could be like this whole podcast, honestly. Computer shit. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was going to be a thing. So like I said, at the moment, if you're creating stuff, you're fetching from Dynamo. You're basically, my developer games calls DynamoDB, gets it from the table directly, saying, hey, what games are available? That's calling Elasticsearch. And there's basically a pipeline from DynamoDB to Elasticsearch, putting all that stuff in there. So tagging works. I demoed that to you, Yazeed, just before we started recording. I don't have it working yet, so you can search tags, but I do have the actual tags and like the, like I said, click a tag and see the games that have that same tag. Click on a game and see all of its tags. You can create a tag. You can't delete a tag at the moment, but that would be easy to add. So,
Well, I was actually going to ask about that. Who has the delete tag privilege?
Would be the person who tagged it. I would say it's yeah. Why?
Because if like I'm the developer, right? I made Square,
Yeah.
and you were like, I'm gonna tag this with Bone Zone, and as a developer, I don't want it associated with Bone Zone. The tag. Can I, as the developer, go to Homegames? Like basically, can he go to? Can the developer go to you or me and say, I would like this tag removed, and would we do that for them? Or would we like, nah, you gotta go figure out who added that tag and talk to them about why they made the Bone Zone tag on your game?
This is an interesting question.
Because if somebody was like, I'm making a kids friendly game, right? Like Square is kids friendly, but somebody added the tag fuck, I would want that removed.
Well, to me, that sounds like you have a filter for NSFW tags, not NSFW games.
Yeah, but then who's deciding what's NSFW or not?
Well, that's still the problem. Who's deciding what's NSFW?
We're not solving the problem by adding that. Is what I'm saying. I think the core of this problem is who can remove a tag. I don't think it should be the person who adds the tag. I feel like the developer should be able to make a request to remove a tag or to remove the tag on their own accord.
Okay, so I do agree. I think a developer has the right to express that they do not like a tag.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on a system level, if one person tagged something fuck and 5,000 tagged it cool, 4,000 tagged it great, the UI should show those tags and not the one that says fuck. If 5,000 people say it's fuck, maybe your game is fuck. You know what I mean? My point is that it is a community-driven thing. And if the community said that your game was Bone Zone, I don't think you should have the power to unilaterally remove that. I think you can say that you don't like it, and maybe...
Your fridge is so loud.
It's incredibly loud. I don't know what the hell. It's the most active fridge day in a long time. So it's like a philosophical thing, because it's like, well, at what point do you limit what people can say? And I think that answer should pretty much be never. Mm-hmm. And so just because someone doesn't like something that someone said about their game, they shouldn't be able to remove it. Like on a like deep philosophical level, I don't think that should be. We should build a system that lets people shut down things they don't like. But I totally see what you're saying, where it's a system that's open for abuse for sure, and we can have some sort of. This kind of goes back to what I was saying. Like you can have automated systems to regulate speech. That'll always go bad.
Yeah,
that'll always go bad. Fucking Twitter.
True.
Anyway, I strongly disagree with any system that does that kind of stuff, or lets people shut down that kind of stuff. So, yeah, maybe we can have a system where you can request or you can make known that you don't. You see the tag "fuck" and then it's just a little infographic. The developer disagrees with this. You know,
that'd be pretty funny. That would be pretty funny. The only thing in there is that there's a possibility that some not great things are going to be written in those tags, and if I was a developer, I might want them removed. So
I would argue that is a problem with humanity.
Yeah. I don't know how we fix that problem. To me, it's like if I was a developer and someone wrote the N-word as a tag, I'd be like, can you please remove this from my game?
I see exactly what you're saying, and I get why Twitter thinks that it's good to say that some things can't be tweeted. Mm-hmm. The system that says you can't tweet that is insane. Like, I don't.
That's what I was saying. Like, the developer would just put a request, be like, "Can you guys remove it, or can you want somebody remove this for me, please?" And then if we're like, "Yeah," or we're like, "No," because Bone Zone's funny.
What if you give people? So this is the same thing, because anything open to people is open for abuse. Mm-hmm. But if you say report this tag, this game is not this. I was also thinking for about 10 seconds in my head.
I don't like those. I don't like the report system because that just goes into some sort of hellhole where either somebody actually does something about it or it's just like, oh yeah, you feel like it was good and we just hide this tag from you. Fuck, that should be the answer. You can hide tags and you can say like, I never want to see the N-word as a tag on a game. And if somebody wrote basically like you're like, this tag, the N-word, don't show it to me. Because the tag is an actual like tag, right? Like an ID associated with it.
Well, the back end right now, the ID is the string, but I should add an ID.
Yeah. Basically, so like my idea was like, okay, so if people wanted to hide a tag, they could. So that way, the developer can be like, I don't want to see this tag, and users can say, I don't want to see this tag, but the tag is there for the crazy people who do want to see the tag.
So yeah, in a general sense, I have built a system that allows anybody to put any word that they want and have it displayed within the UI. And in a world where people don't like everything that everybody else does, sometimes those people want to hide the bad shit. That I totally agree with. You can hide the bad shit for yourself, but you can never stop the bad shit or attempt to.
Yeah, that's why I think it's better to just be like, you can personally hide it, and we're not gonna just allow people to remove tags because there might be a crazy person out there who uses that tag.
Yeah, I mean, there could be someone out there who's just tagging every game that they love with that word, and then they use it for their own like inventory system. They just look up that word and they find their favorites.
Yeah, although if a lot of people are hiding it, we could always look to see who's making all these tags that like everyone else is hiding, and then be like, hey, listen, like maybe chill with that tag.
But that's what I'm saying doesn't work. Because if you build a system and people are putting in bullshit, and then you say, hey, maybe tone down the bullshit, people are going to read that as, I'm going to do more bullshit. And every little thing you try to do to shut down people fucking with your system will make them fuck with your system more, because the reality is they'll always find a way to fuck with your system. They can make a new account and access it through a VPN and still fuck you, because that's what people do. It's like a challenge when you say that they can't do something.
Yeah, that's why I kind of like you can hide tags from displaying on your client.
Yeah, but then we would have to take that into the other. I don't like this, but we would have to build a system that allows word filters for everything. You would say, filter out these words from games for the descriptions, for the tags, because I don't even want to read them. At that point, you're building...
I think just tags, because if somebody wrote that in their description for the game, that's different. I would assume if you were sensitive to that word and it was the title of the game, you wouldn't play that game.
Yeah, but it's still showing up.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a hard position to be in. I don't have a good answer for it.
Yeah, this is like, it's funny how like one's personal philosophy of like how the world should work comes up in these things, because you're building a system. Ideally, it's working how you think it should work.
Yeah.
So anyway, obviously we can talk forever about this, and there's a lot more thought probably both of us need to put into it. But I definitely, just from this, very strongly don't think we should try to stop things, but I think we agree like stopping hiding it is better than trying to stop it.
Yeah, absolutely. The actual like the mechanics of how we hide it, I think, will be up for debate, but I think that hiding it is the solution. I think it's more maintainable also, because that's like individuals can do it.
Yes.
So we don't get flooded with like a 6,000 please remove this tag requests, and we're like, well,
yeah, but then what do we do when there's 5,000 please remove and 5,000 please keep it? I mean, ultimately it's...
Yeah, what we do is we have change.org petitions per game, and then if it hits a certain signature count, we know it.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess my point is it'll always be... There's always problems. And
yeah.
I think putting us in the position of power is not good, because I don't want to make these decisions for people. I don't... I'm not that. That's not my role, you know.
Yeah.
I build the system. You do with the system what you want. You want to put horrible shit in here, like, hey man, that's you, you know.
It is, but it isn't, because some other people are gonna see it, and some people it might affect pretty negatively. So I think as long as we have a way of allowing somebody to not see that stuff, I think we're okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Because
I would I guess as an example, Call of Duty chat, they block out the words that you think that they block out. And what people do is that they'll put numbers, or they'll remove one letter, or they'll add a space, or they'll do something, because fuck your system. They're going to find a way around it, because that's the whole point, is that they wanted to say fuck you. And so they always will. So anyway, that's it for that, I think, for me.
Mm-hmm.
Tags, they work almost. So at this point, yeah, like I said, I'm doing the approval process stuff, the home dome, which again, 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Fuck, that's good. And so after that,
I know we spend too much time together when it's like, yeah, hell yeah, for both of us.
But no, I think that's all I had. We almost hit an hour again, by the way.
That's pretty impressive, just around home game stuff. Yeah, I don't really have anything else either. I guess after this modal PR goes through, the next major PR for me will be the full color tag. I almost said changelog. Color tag, and then I'll probably have really garbage MS Paint mocks for Twitter by the next podcast, and then Joseph and I can show Joseph beforehand what I think that looks like.
And I'll be like, damn, that looks like trash. Let's do it.
It should look like trash. I want it to.
Yeah.
I love when mocks look like hot doo-doo, and then the end result is pretty great.
Yeah.
Or at least moderately okay. I like saying the expectation's really low and like meeting and putting out like an average product. You look great. I look great.
Yeah.
I do that.
That's why I do all my UI mocks in Microsoft Excel. Just like block out colors. It's just like there will be words here, you know?
Bro, I'm with you. I'm with you though, dude. I'm kind of into that. I like that stuff.
I said that as a joke, but that might actually be like pretty good for a UI mocking thing, because you're able to just like block out grids.
Yeah,
it's all just a grid.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. Anyway,
yeah, UI UX designers don't really understand. Underneath the hood, it's all just pixels, which make up a grid. So they're like, we want this to be like 18 and a half pixels, and you're like, about that half pixel.
Yeah, it's 37 pixels, bro.
Yeah.
All right, I'm closing it out, right? That's how this works.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, our music is done by our friend Tynan. He is Nightan on Bandcamp. I was about to say he's Tynan on Bandcamp. That's his name. Nightan, Nytan. I totally forgot. I don't have my notes anymore.
Hit us up on Twitter at homegames.io, all one word, or our website, homegames.io, also one word. I think that's everything.
That's true. Thank you for saving me. We'll see you.
Wait, is there an email?
Is there? No, we stopped that because people don't email us.
Okay.
We have a Twitter, Homegames.io.
Don't email us.
Email me. We have a contact form on the web on the website, so you can do homegames.io at the bottom if you want to send us a thing, or you can email us. I think there's a list of some. Anyway, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.